So today's camp practice was so scorching hot that a heated scuffle broke out between two competitive rookies, but that was far from the only interesting takeaway. We saw an injury scare early from one key player, then two more injuries to the wide receiver room, another potential battle brewing along the O-line, but this time on the interior, and that's not even to mention any of the standout plays. So I've got to talk about all that and more as I break down day 7 of training camp. But first, how about those? All right, today was day 7 of Chiefs training camp and day 3 in pads, and it was scorching hot. Also, tempers flared, probably partially due to this heat. A real feel of nearly 100 degrees at the halfway point of practice, and by the end, 120 on the field. Insane. A fan even had to get tended to by first aid. So with all that context in mind, I imagine the heat played a role in a bunch of stuff that happened at today's practice. And that does include injuries. Let's talk about that for a second here, because as training camp goes on, the injury list is going to grow. Doesn't just happen with the Chiefs either, but basically every team from around the league. There's been some pretty unfortunate ones league-wide already, and so the ultimate hope here, all throughout training camp, that the Chiefs come out of that as healthy as humanly possible. With that being said, there are some new injuries to talk about that popped up during today's practice, but before practice even started, here were the players not participating. Linebacker Jeffrey Bassa, ankle sprain. Safety Deion Bush, hamstring. Cornerback Eric Scott, hamstring. Cornerback Christian Fulton, he is the only one on the PUP list with the knee. Tight end Jake Brenningstool, hamstring. And cornerback Darius Rush, also hamstring. Now, something I noticed about the new injury list here is that there are several guys in the secondary getting banged up, so I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs explored the option of adding a defensive back in some capacity to their 90-man roster here soon if the injuries keep up. Speaking of injuries, there was an injury scare on the first play of teams, I believe, that made the eyebrows of most Chiefs fans shoot way up, because Xavier made a diving attempt at a deep ball from Mahomes, and he landed awkwardly, immediately going to the medical tent to get looked at. Of course, that was initially concerning, with Mahomes even checking on Worthy in the tent, but a handful of minutes later, he came back out and walked to the sidelines with his helmet in his hand, thank God. Shortly after that, Worthy was back to practicing, so crisis averted there. Andy Reid shared after practice that he banged his head, so him immediately going to the tent could have been just getting checked out in case of a concussion. He could later be seen winning this rep here against Nazeeh Johnson, a really impressive 1v1, so yeah, Worthy thankfully ended up being just fine. Worthy is about to be an absolute problem this season because he's been making plays like this all camp long, even against Trent McDuffie himself. He's building on what was a very impactful back half of his rookie campaign, and he's got more than just speed. He's been refining that route tree, and that combined with his speed and quickness is what's going to make him so dangerous this season. Then this connection from Mahomes to Jalen Royals was solid as the rookie continues to build rapport with QB1. Juju Smith-Schuster was another guy who had a contested touchdown grab during teams, and honestly, Juju has been having a pretty good camp so far. He's taken up the clear leadership role in that room as the veteran. Andy Reid echoed that today, and Nagy had high praise for Juju as well in that regard yesterday. Now here's a surprising one, but shoot, it was a great play and worth some praise. So surprising to me that my voice just cracked, but Skyy Moore made a fantastic touchdown grab on this play here, reeling in a pass from Mahomes and maintaining possession. Again, very impressive catch here from Skyy. I'm not sure if he makes the roster or anything like that, but if injuries hit the wide receiver room, then everybody fighting for that wide receiver 6 or 7 spot will see their chances increasing, and plays like this does help Skyy's chances. With that being said, though, after a standout play like that, Skyy ended up leaving practice early in the front of the cart, and Andy Reid said he tweaked his hamstring. So I'm not sure how long he'll be out, but there's another injury update for you in the wide receiver room. One of those receivers that will benefit in the pecking order from injuries like that is Tyquan Thornton. He continues to impress basically everybody every single day of camp. He had a nice W of a 1v1 rep here against Trent McDuffie, showcasing that sub 4.340 speed as he pulled away across the middle of the field for the grab. Again, 1v1s like this typically favor the receiver, but anytime a receiver that's fighting for the 53-man roster wins a rep like that against the defense's all-pro cornerback, I'm gonna gas that up. This is what camp is for, to push each other and get better each and every day as these guys fight to make the roster. Thornton wasn't done there either because he hauled in this nice pass pass from Mahomes in the back corner of the end zone. Shout out to Farzan for this video clip. What a fantastic catch by Thornton. Great field awareness, and he made sure to get both feet in bounds before stepping out, which resulted in a touchdown, and I had to watch this clip more than a few times. Count me in on the Thornton hype at this point in time, and I think he is going to make the roster, at least based on how things are looking. Now let's talk about this heat and when the heat can sometimes get to the players and they take things a little too far. The aftermath of this play here is what everybody was talking about earlier. It was a 9-on-7 play, the run period. We saw some rookie-on-rookie violence thanks to Mark Polos of KCTV5. Josh Simmons can be seen kind of taking defensive end Ashton Gelati for a ride on this play here, to which Gelati responded, letting him know he didn't appreciate that by pulling his jersey closer to him and then shoving him back. Well, Josh Simmons responded in kind by punching him right in the face mask. I was not expecting that, and honestly, neither was Gelati. And that's when they really started going at it, with Simmons losing his helmet before players and coaches stepped in to pull them away from each other and separate them. Andy Reid quickly walked Simmons back from the scene of the crime, and who knows what he said. But again, it's hot as hell out there, and these guys are miserable. Andy Reid basically said as much after practice, saying, people get ornery when it's hot, and these guys are competitors. I do respect the feistiness of Simmons here, though. The punch to the face was a bit much in my opinion, but that guy is a dog, and this is going to help in his mindset of protecting Mahomes in actual games. Whatever it takes, he's in. Just don't actually throw a punch in a game, Josh, because if you do, an ejection is sure to follow, and I would much rather have this guy out there for the entire game. Anyway, let me know what you think of the first camp fight. Do you respect it like I do, but think punches to the face are a little bit much? I don't know. They had helmets on, not the end of the world, but I would be curious to know your thoughts on it. And then another receiver actually pulled up limping in the back of the end zone shortly after that camp fight with what Nate Taylor described as a right lower leg injury. That was the speedy wide receiver Hollywood Brown, who went to the medical tent for evaluation and eventually left practice in the front of the cart. It's always good to differentiate when a player is in the front of the cart as opposed to the back of the cart, because if they're in the back, that typically is worst case scenario or not great on the injury front. Now, with that being said, Andy Reid shared after practice that Hollywood tweaked his ankle. He doesn't think it's too bad, but hadn't yet spoken with him. But shortly after that, Jordan Schultz had a source tell him that he avoided anything serious, and Hollywood's expected to be on the field again as early as tomorrow. That's obviously great news there, but with Thursday being a day off, I don't see why Hollywood needs to be rushed back out there tomorrow, which is Wednesday. Just give the guy a couple days off, and hopefully a little bit of time of rest helps that ankle. Next up, the offensive line battle continues to get even more interesting as time goes on. At first, it was Josh Simmons at left tackle and Jalen Moore at right tackle, while Jawan Taylor was on the PUP list. Well, Jawan Taylor returned a couple days ago, and since then, both Jalen Moore and Jawan Taylor have been splitting reps at right tackle, while Simmons gets the lone reps on the left side. And I'll talk about the most intriguing O-line development from today here in a bit, but let's hone in on Simmons, man. He is probably the week one starter at the left tackle spot for the team if he continues trending upwards like he has every single day. You can look at multiple plays, and we'll talk more about this one later, but this Travis Kelce touchdown play, look at Simmons here. He turns his attention inside to help Kingsley for a second here with Chris Jones just minimally before turning his attention outside. And there's even more examples of him doing the little things right, and we have to be very encouraged about that as Chiefs fans based on the left tackle play last season. Then Simmons did initially lose this rep here against Mike Dana, but recovered nicely, and that gave Mahomes enough time to step up and find running back Brashard Smith in the end zone for a tight windowed score. Something else that was impressive about this play here from Brashard Smith was, I think that morphed into a bit of a scramble drill once he saw Mahomes stepping up into the pocket, and that was great awareness on his part. Brashard told the media today that he's been working in with the running back room, even though he does line up at receiver at times, and when he goes out for passes like that red zone touchdown, working with Mahomes has been awesome. He's just trying to get that timing down, aiming to be there for him, and get that head turned around quickly to be ready for the ball just in case it's thrown his way. In the run game, Brashard's got speed, yes, but he's been working on being a bit slower, letting blocks develop, and showcasing patience there as things open up for him. He's a converted receiver, yes, hasn't been playing the running back position too long, so he's working on running between the tackles, staying low, and as a rookie, he feels he can still learn in more ways than not. He definitely wants to be better at lining up quicker, which will definitely come with time as he absorbs that playbook. Special teams is something else he's excited for as well, especially with the new kickoff rules. Quote, there's way more explosive plays to come. That's for sure. That's the same regarding punt returns. He feels like he can make plays when the ball is in his hands and is willing to do whatever the team asks of him. He was asked about punt returns because he is in the rotation as a punt returner. I think Nico has that on lock right now, but Brashard Smith could be the next man up. We'll see. He doesn't have any actual college experience or much at all returning punts, but hey, they'll continue to work him in and he would be dangerous back there with the ball in his hands. And then to keep it going here in the running back room, Pete Sweeney dropped a thread of observations from today's practice, and I want to talk about a certain running back that stood out in a couple different aspects. He did say in pass pro drills, he saw expectedly good looks from Noah Gray and Kareem Hunt, and then on defense, Drew Tranquill was a handful to deal with, but he thought running back Elijah Mitchell looked a little better than advertised here. He then said Pacheco and Mitchell impressed him as the period shifted to one-on-one routes. So my question is, could Elijah Mitchell be the third down running back? It's at least interesting to think about because we don't know who that is yet. It could very well be Kareem Hunt as the third down back and your short yardage guy. But if Elijah Mitchell continues to stand out in pass pro and in the pass game, he's a guy to keep your eyes on because he did miss all of last year with a hamstring injury and is definitely hungry to prove himself. And then I have to talk about this next sentence. He said cornerback Chris Roland-Wallace had a diving pass breakup. That is back-to-back days of diving pass breakups, diving PBUs from Chris Roland-Wallace, and his stock is definitely rising, a guy that could potentially find himself in the slot over Chamari Connor when McDuffie isn't in there. The coaching staff haven't put Chris Roland-Wallace over Chamari Connor at all yet, but if you keep stacking good days, maybe they'll give him a shot. And before I get to the biggest storyline of the day regarding the O-line, I wanted to give a shout out to Travis Kelce. He's been looking fantastic out there during camp so far. I can tell he's lighter. He looks even quicker in his movements, winning this 1v1 rep here against B. Cook, and then hauling in a touchdown pass from Mahomes a bit later. I think it's safe to say he did exactly what he said he did, took the offseason very seriously, and I'm excited for his 13th season in the NFL, to say the least. Another veteran in that room, Robert Tonyan, continues stacking good days as well. He made an awesome one-handed grab a couple days ago, and with Jake Brenningstool continued to be sidelined with that hamstring injury, Tonyan is putting together a good case to at least be in consideration for the 53-man roster as tight end 4 if they end up rolling with 4 tight ends. All right, aside from that little skirmish between Josh Simmons and Ashton Gelati, the biggest thing to take note of on the offensive line today was the fact that Jalen Moore split reps with Kingsley Suamataia at left guard. That's an eyebrow raiser to me, at least initially, because going all the way back to college, Jalen Moore hasn't played along the interior at all. But to be fair, Kingsley hasn't played along the interior either, so touche. Both he and Moore, again, split reps, taking turns at left guard off and on all practice, even during the 12-play long drive period near the end of practice. It went 6 snaps for Kingsley at left guard, followed by 6 for Jalen Moore. Andy Reid did say after practice that they have Jalen working all 3 spots on the line, which I assume is left tackle, right tackle, and left guard. He can do either, per the words of Reid, and they are just working him in as they need everybody. Big Red added that Moore is a good football player, but they only have 5 spots, so you have to move guys around and make sure they can do what's needed. However, he is better on the outside because, obviously, he's only played on the outside in his career. And then regarding Kingsley at guard, Andy said he's done a nice job. He's really battled in there, looks solid, and they like what they've seen from him so far. Kingsley spoke with the media as well today, and he said the switch to guard for him is going well. Things are a lot faster along the interior, and he's been working with Trey Smith, asking him question after question, doing his best to help better his craft for the entire team. And with all that being said, what the heck is going on between Kingsley and Jalen Moore and then splitting reps at the left guard spot? Some people are reading into this as a legitimate battle at the left guard spot now, as well as a battle at the right tackle spot between Moore and Jawan Taylor. I think Jawan is handling his ramp-up period well, and he's the starting right tackle right now. And then if I had to put money on it, I still think Kingsley will get the nod at left guard, at least initially. It seems to me that Jalen Moore is the next man up, the swing tackle on the roster, and honestly, who cares? I get the fact that he's here on a 2-year, $30 million deal, and that's a pretty expensive swing tackle, but I see zero negatives here about Veach overcorrecting to fix the O-line issues that got absolutely exposed in the Super Bowl. They didn't know they would be able to get Simmons at pick 32 in the draft either, and they definitely didn't know he'd have a chance to actually be the starter come week One, if injuries hit that room now, Jalen Moore can instantly step up in there as the Swiss Army knife and provide relief at left tackle or right tackle, and then maybe guard in a pinch. And even Jalen Moore at left tackle is better than any left tackle the Chiefs have probably had in a couple of years. All in all, this is a great problem to have because, again, if you protect Patrick Mahomes, you win Super Bowls. Think of his 2022 campaign. He had solid left tackle play, and he won MVP with his wide receiver one being Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like Jalen Moore couldn't actually win the left guard job, but here's why I do not love that idea. If he's your starting left guard, but also the next man up for right or left tackle, if either Jawan Taylor or Simmons gets hurt, you're going to have to pull Jalen from left guard, put either Kingsley or Caliendo in at left guard, and then kick Jalen outside. Multiple pieces of the O-line moving like that seems a bit problematic to me, but those are just my thoughts right now. If instead Jalen Moore is just the swing tackle and an injury to Jawan or Simmons happens in a game, you only have to swap one guy out rather than multiple, but those are just my thoughts for right now. There's a long ways to go at camp plus preseason, and while I hope injuries don't hit the offensive line room, we can obviously see things switch up if somebody else on the line tweaks something. It seems to me they are just getting Jalen experience along the line so he can be as valuable as humanly possible, but that's enough of my thoughts. What do you guys make of Jalen and Kingsley splitting left guard reps? Do you think there's actually a battle going on there, or nah? Let me know either way in the comments down below, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?